Hey, Jody here with WeldingTipsAndTricks.com. This is part 2 of the aluminum awning project with JD Brewer. Let's get into it. In part 1, it was all TIG welding, and it was all done inside the shop, so we weren't worried about wind or anything like that. Just let me catch you up to speed here. Some butt joints, some lap joints that we put a doubler on. A quick tip here coming up in just a minute. If you're having trouble duffing your electrode into your wire every time, here's something I do sometimes: is I lift the arc up while I add rod, because that puddle grows in height each time you push rod in there, and lifting it up keeps a clean electrode a lot longer. That was the most fun joint to do on the whole project anyway. And then there was this doubler. We welded it first and then sanded the welds flushed and then put the doubler on. Doubler wasn't really called for, required necessarily, just something JD thought would be a good idea in certain points to add a little rigidity. Well, that main frame is done, but there's a lot more work to do before this thing is ready to transport to the job site. Now what JD is doing here is he's going to splice two pieces together, because it's like a 33-foot long run, and didn't have any this aluminum square tubing long enough to do that. So with a plumb bob tied onto a chalk line here, gets a good scribe mark where he needs to make the cut, and that'll be welded, and just no avoiding that. So once they're cut, using a sort of an extra piece for a straight edge and jack stands to get everything level and straight, clamp it off to the straight edge, make sure that it doesn't have a dog leg in it or anything like that, and a little bevel on it, get some tacks, and weld this thing all the way around. I won't show you all of it, but that's what happened. Weld it all the way around. JD's getting better and better at his TIG welding aluminum skills. Good places to practice here. JD has a couple of gantry cranes like this in his shop. This one here has been modified to be used as part of a trolley system that goes in and out of the shop. We used a 200 amp TIG welder for this job, and with an air-cooled torch, which was only rated for 150 amps. But we didn't have any problems. You know, torch got a little warm here and there, and we were full pedal for quite a bit of it, especially those long runs especially where it was 3/16 thickness instead of just 1/8. But it did the job, got it done, and that is kind of the main thing. It would have been better to have maybe 250 amp machine with a water-cooled torch and a small head and all that stuff, but really wasn't a problem. These welds are going to be ground flush, and then we're going to put a doubler on top of this, and we'll hit the PlasmaCam here, show you how we do that. This is all sped up quite a bit, but I think it just goes to show you how intuitive and how easy the software is to make a part like this. A lot of copy and paste stuff goes on, and it just really makes it really quick. I'm just going to be quiet for a little while here, because there's really not a whole lot I can add to the next couple of minutes. Well, we're making good progress here. This thing is like 33 feet long, and this is, at least part of this structure is done. Still got some signage to put in there and things like that, but this is a total of about 33 feet long end to end and 5.5 feet tall. A lot of this is flat bar. Some of it's square tubing on the bottom runs, but a lot of it's flat bar, and one side of it's going to be fastened with anchor bolts to a brick wall, and so that'll be just as rigid as can be, and then the square tubing side will be rigid, so it should be fine. I'm not sure exactly the roofing that's going to go on it. I think it's going to be corrugated sheet, but not sure about that. Who may not know, I do a weekly podcast myself along with Roy Crumrine and Jonathan Lewis. It's called the Welding Tips and Tricks Podcast. And this music is the bumper music we're using for that. This is done by my son Jake. All right, well, it won't be long now. Do a little spool gun welding off of generator. JD uses this machine a lot for doing on-site work for stick welding, for scratch start TIG, as well as running a active 8 wire feeder like a suitcase type welder with dual shield flux core. And uses it a whole lot for a generator to power the PowerMig 210 MP. By the way, this is not a paid promotion or anything like that. This just happens to be the setup that JD uses on site as well as in his shop. All right, this is kind of like the pillar, the thing that everything's going to set on. So he's got to get it locked into place and level and everything so that he can set the whole awning on. There's a little bit of breeze going on, so we're getting a little soot, but welds are still good. Having plenty of jack stands on hand with long extensions along with a forklift makes it go pretty good. Once everything is dead nuts level, you will use some anchor bolts and get the flat bar fastened to the brick wall. Get everything locked in place before he welds everything out. For a little added rigidity, there are these kind of support plates here that are bolted up underneath of the concrete with slots cut in them with the PlasmaCam just to really stiffen it up. I really wish I could have shown the completely finished product with the skin or roof or whatever you call it on there, but that's another contractor who's going to come in and do that. All I know is the powder coated letters look great, the whole project turned out great, and I really appreciate being a part of it. So we'll see you next time.